Hey folks, welcome back to Naz Life, mixing you another lively podcast from the family of Nazarene Missionary Baptist Church. We're so glad you're joining us as we explore topics, ask questions, and get real about the Christ life we've been dying to hear about. Get comfortable in your seat because this is Naz Life with your host on his post, Larry A. Rascoe Sr.
Family, this is Pastor Rascoe, and we're here with Naz Life. One of the things that we wanted to do as we begin to think about different topics that we should cover, couldn't get away from the idea we're in the midst of an election, and wow, thought it would be great to have a conversation to just help equip and prepare individuals to participate and to spend some time talking about how important it is. And so we've got a few individuals on board with us tonight. As you can see, this is Brother Royce Sutton, and you know he's a beloved son of the church, and so glad that he's here. God's used him, and he was over at St. Louis for a minute, and then the Lord took him across two more bridges, brought him back to Cincinnati, and God's using him in that community. We thank God for him. Lori, he's in a house. He's got some young adults now, and so he's in a new season, but he's been committed and has been sharing. He served in the political arena, and so wanted to invite him to have this conversation with us. And then, of course, we thank God for Brother Darryl McKnight, who has been very diligent in our community. He has been involved with voter registration. And so we wanted to have this conversation tonight. And so some of the things that we want to talk about is the importance of voting. So let me kick this off. Brother Darryl, when was the first time you voted, and what inspired you to vote?
The first time I voted, I was 18. I haven't missed an election. But my father, he sort of drummed it into us that you need to vote.
Okay, Brother Royce, why is we've got a lot of young people that really think, is it really going to make a difference? Why is it important? Why is voting important to you? And what would you tell these young people who feel, does it really make a difference?
First of all, I'd say thank you, Pastor Rascoe, for arranging this forum where we can really talk about the current and important events, but more so even our degree of passion around certain things, and being able to provide some focus around certain key events, key issues. And there probably isn't an issue right now that is even more clear about why we need to be a participant in it. I would say that when the person who's really thinking, who's pondering whether or not they should actually vote, does their vote count? Is it a waste of time? Are the candidates even up to standard to even measure them taking the time out of their day to vote? I guess I would put it in the context of this. Before I really got an understanding of what politics was all about, I was in college, and we were and I was receiving financial aid that was really making it possible for me to actually attend college. The person who was in the White House at that time made drastic changes to the financial aid structure, and that impacted Pell Grants all across the board, which meant, conversely, that I was going to receive less in terms of what I would have for an education, and how I was going to make up for that gap. I really did not know. It was that decision right there that convinced me and understood that politics touches every single aspect of our lives, and the ability to select our leaders who are going to make decisions and who are going to impact policy that in turn impacts everything that we do, from the food we eat to the streets we walk down, how we drive down the streets, to even the textbooks that we read. When I finally really understood that it was that process that I needed to be involved, and I needed to vote, and if I did not, then I was not expressing my thoughts and my opinions. So the person who's on the fence and wondering whether or not they should vote, wondering whether or not it makes a difference, then they need to think about, is healthcare important to them? Is it important that as they think about if they want to purchase their first home, will it be affordable? If you want to attend school, will it be attainable for you? So every single aspect, politics and voting impacts every single aspect of our life. It may seem invisible. We may not see it readily, but it definitely plays a key part. So being able to step up and say, I want to select my leaders. I want to select those people who maybe are aligned with my interests, who are listening to me, is a part of what it means to be a responsible and a involved citizen of this great republic that we're a part of.
Yeah, listen, I gotta confess, fellas, Royce, I was motivated similar by you. My first opportunity to vote, I didn't vote. I didn't think it would make a difference. But I was struggling in college. You know, I was at Indiana State. You know, they didn't have ministry down there. But I came up with this strategy that I was going to be. They were starting air traffic control program and a co-op. And I actually passed the test to become an air traffic controller. I was accepted into the program. I was in. And that summer, so what that meant was I could go to school and then work as a air traffic controller, learning on the job. And so that was my strategy. I was going to marry Trudy. She was going to come to Terre Haute, and we were going to do this thing, and we both could be in school, and I would have some real good income. And then the president who was in at the time, the air traffic controllers went on strike. And not only did he fire all of the air traffic controllers that went on strike, but with the stroke of a pen, he eliminated all the co-op programs in the nation. And so I received a letter stating that the program had been eliminated by executive order. And from that point on, I started voting. And so you're absolutely right. It does make a difference. And that was what, kind of inspired me. Let me ask you guys this question. There are a lot of times when you vote and the person you vote for, they don't win. And a lot of times you've got to deal with people, help people to understand why it's important to vote, even if your person doesn't win. And how do you deal with that competitiveness? Who wants?
It is altogether likely that you're going to have you're going to not every candidate that you support. Someone that you're really fired up about, they may not win. That's just the reality of it. The very first time I ran for public office, as much as I wanted to do it, as much as I wanted to be on a public representative, I was unsuccessful. I lost that race by 18 votes. So you tell me every vote doesn't count? Oh, I can attest that every single vote does count, and every candidate is not going to win. But if you could even think a little bit further, even if your candidate does not win, you are then a registered voter. And when they select jury, and everybody wants a jury of their peer, right? If you've got a relative who is facing some criminal situation, they want a jury that looks like them. If you are not a registered voter, then you cannot be a part of the jury pool. So wouldn't you want somebody who looks like you, who thinks like you, who maybe shares some of your passions and ideas to be in that jury pool, have an opportunity to sit in an opportunity to make a decision on whether your person is set free or they spend who knows how many years behind bars? So it's that other part that we miss out on when we make that decision that we're not going to participate in the process. We lose out on actually helping people and being involved with the process that is important when we think about the judicial process.
Cool. Brother Darryl?
I listen to folks complain about what is going on with government, and I heard when I was working, and I asked, did you vote? And a lot of times they said they didn't vote. I say, well, if you didn't vote, you have no right. But I'll use a more colorful word. I said, don't vote, don't vote. But when you're talking about the voting itself, this last presidential election, out of 120, I think it was 128 million votes, okay? The election was decided by 90,000 votes.
Wow.
10,000 in Wisconsin, 10,000 in Michigan, and 70,000 in Pennsylvania. 70,000 votes, and the loser got 3 million more votes than the winner. But it was because of the electoral college that system is set up that person won the election.
Before we get into that voting piece, let me ask you about this. Let's talk real quick. I'll come back to that voting and location. But Darryl, I want to ask you, about registration. We know that October 5th is the last day to register, and that may be a moot point in lieu of the fact that this may be airing after that. But what goes on the registration card? How hard is it to register to vote? What do I need in order to register?
What you need to register is your name, your address. Make sure that your address is correct. Really, that's really all it is to it. Now, sometimes they will check to make sure, but do not lie on your registration.
Okay. Well, what is the process of getting? If I wanted to get a ballot and mail in, what is required in order to get a ballot sent to my house and then?
Well, Pastor, if we step back on what Darryl was talking about there on that registration process, because want to make sure people are really, really clear on that piece. There are some people who are not sure whether they're registered or not. Maybe you missed the last election cycle, you didn't vote. That doesn't necessarily mean your name is purged off the roll. If you have moved, however, that could pose an issue for you. Yes. So you want to make sure you go in and take a look and see if you're registered. And it's a very simple process. You can go right online. And here in Indiana, they make it pretty simple for you to be able to check your registration. And if you go to indianavoters.in.gov, indianavoters.in.gov, you can check your status. You put in your name, and it will pull up whether you are actually actively registered. And if you're registered, your name will show, and it will have the address in there. So you can register, and if you want to register, you can register online right there at that site. Mm-hmm. You can register in person by going down the voter registration office down at the Civic Center. Okay. Or you can actually print out the material and then just mail in your registration if you want to do it that way. But anyway, if you've moved over the last couple of years, I would highly recommend you go in and take a look at that. Go and take a look and see if you are still actively on the registration roll. Right now in Indiana, there are 4,600,000 registered voters. You want to make sure you're one of those.
Cool.
And another thing, as far as piggybacking on Royce, I normally work the polls. I'm a judge at my polling place, and it's sometimes astonishing how many folks come in and that they've moved or they've gotten married and their names aren't registered, and so sometimes they can, if it's early enough, they can go down to voter registration, but other times if they can't, they have to fill out a provisional ballot. And when you fill out a provisional ballot, I'd say the way it works, 90% of the time your ballot doesn't count because the person that you voted for has either won or lost by a large margin. So like Roy says, you need to make sure that you are registered and you have everything that's needed so you can vote. Because let me tell you this, they will stop you.
So there's some states where you can still register, and there's some that aren't. What about Indiana? Where do we stand? As for if you have a criminal background.
Okay. Right now, as long as you have served your sentence, served it, and it's not, and the two things I think is murder and child pornography, whatever that is, you can still vote. But once you have served the whole sentence. Now, another thing.
And re-registered?
Yeah, you have to register. Okay. Now, also, as far as people that are in jail, as long as you are indicted and you haven't been found guilty, you can still vote. So you have to have been found guilty, before you're not eligible to vote. But if the police come and arrest me on a charge and I haven't gone to the court yet, I'm still eligible to vote, as long as I'm out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Royce, let me ask you, I wanted to ask you, so in order to get a mail-in ballot, do we go to the same website that we go to?
You can do it. You can go to the website. You can go to the indianavoters.in.gov. You can get it that way. You can go down to the voters registration office. You can call down to the voters registration office, and they'll make arrangements for you. Let's say you're homebound and you can't get out, and they'll make arrangements with you to get the ballot to you. So you can either mail that back in, or you can have someone will actually come pick up your ballot. So either way. So they try to give you as many options as possible. But the key thing that we are emphasizing here is exercising your right as an American citizen here, being able to make sure you're part of the process. And it's not that hard. It really is. They've made it pretty simple for you, pretty simple all the way around.
Okay, let's talk about the early voting. Darryl, you mentioned it's October 6th, early voting begins. The question, where are the sites for October for the early voting?
Well, normally the newspapers will tell you where to vote. See, usually in Evansville, we had precincts. I think there was 177-something precincts. Don't quote me on that number. Here in Evansville and the surrounding counties. Vanderburgh County, I should say, Vanderburgh County. But we went to what was called voting centers. So now, and when we had the precincts, you had to vote in your precinct. But with the voting centers, you can vote anywhere. So So
that's what's going on now. The new voting, they have voting centers now.
Early voting will begin next Tuesday. I guess actually October 6th.
Yeah,
and go all the way through November 2nd. November 2nd. There's
the day before.
There's 8 locations.
Right out here in Vanderburgh County, there's I think 22 locations.
Okay. Is that for early voting?
Yeah, for early voting. Plus.
Okay. All right.
Plus, all you can vote at all the libraries.
Okay.
There are certain times. Right. I got a whole list here. I mean, it's kind of long as to where you can vote. But here in Vandenberg, and I don't know what goes on in Warwick County. But I'm just
Pastor, not to confuse people. When we say early voting, that means you are physically going to a location and casting your ballot. You're physically going to any of the locations that you're actually going to go cast your ballot. You've gone through, you're going to take care of your business that way. But the other part of what we would consider early voting is the absentee voting. Now that's a little bit different. So just to make that distinction, that's where you actually request the ballot.
Right.
And you've got until October 22nd to request the ballot. And then return that ballot. You have it must be received on, which is kind of crazy. It must be received on November 3rd, 12 noon. That's the cutoff. If returned in the mail by November 3rd at 12 noon. Now, if you want to return that ballot in person, you can do that. Return that in person. That also must be by November 3rd at 12 noon. So you request it by October 22nd, and then you got to get it back in. So as for absentee voting is open now, you can do that. You can request that ballot.
So Royce, nationally, locally, well, let's talk about locally. Darryl, what are some of the major offices that are up for re-election locally? What are some of the offices we should pay attention to?
Well, your county recorder, your county clerk, the county council seats. County council seats are up. Statewide, all of your congressional seats are up on your, like District 64. I don't know what your district is, but you have a state representative and you also have a state senator. Now the state senators aren't up, but the state reps are. State representatives are up. And like Tonda is running for a state rep position.
Okay.
So, but most
Brother Royce,
let's not forget, and this is one that's typically overlooked, and the importance of this election for this area, it tends to get pushed down, and that is the school board.
Right. So school board is up too.
You got Karen Ragland, who's on the ballot this time around, and the idea of being able to make decisions around children's education, the curriculum, resources, districts, all of that comes through the school board, and we have a chance to select someone who's going to represent us and represents us well on that body. You also, when you think about, you got the judges who are also on the ballot. You have an opportunity to select who's going to sit on that bench or who you want removed from the bench. So the idea of this election, I know you hear people say, may come off as a little trite, when they say this election is so important than any other election we've ever had. This is. You should expect there's going to be long lines. You should expect that there's going to be a lot of people coming out to vote in this election. They're expecting it to be a record turnout, something like what we saw in 2008 when President Obama ran. Those numbers, it should be in those numbers. However, this idea of if you do not vote, I can assure you that every racist, every Klan member, every member who is on fringe things, alt-right stuff, they're voting. So do you want them to select your representatives? Do you want them to be the ones who make the decisions around who is the best person in offices, from the president, school board, county council, county commission? You have the opportunity to make that choice to cancel out what someone else is trying to do.
Guys, you have been absolutely great. Is there any last? I want to give each of you a chance to have a final word, just to encourage the family, the community, those listeners, and then I want to wrap up with a statement. Darryl, you go first.
All I can say is every vote counts. Voting means that, just to put it on a monetary value again with Royce, voting tells you about how much money comes back to the state, how much money the state can go to give back to the local community. So again, this last election was 90,000 votes, the last election. And
Wow.
everyone needs to vote.
Brother Royce?
IndianaVoters.in.gov. Go check your registration. Make sure you're current. Make sure you know what to do so that you are equipped, armed, and ready to go in this election cycle. It is healthcare is on the ballot. Judicial reform is on the ballot. George Floyd is on the ballot. Breonna Taylor, she's on the ballot too. Law enforcement reform is on the ballot. Affordable housing is on the ballot. So wherever you think about, whatever issue it touches you personally, and then it touches this community collectively. And I was fortunate enough to be reelected 4 times because some folks were good enough to support me with their vote. And I trust that everyone that's listening to this call, listening to this conference, which is great, I trust that they will do the same and select great leaders in this community.
Listen, there's a text that we use as it relates to being connected to the community. Nazarene Missionary Baptist Church, connecting people to Christ, the church, the calling, and the community. And that text comes from Matthew, where it says, we are salt and light. We're the salt of the earth. We're the light of the world. There is no other text that really reflects our privilege, our opportunity. We are compelled to engage in this world. Jesus said, we shall be witnesses. We are the salt and the light. Both of those are things that make a difference. And because we live in the United States of America, God has given us this privilege to be able to participate for the left out, for the least, for the lonely, for the lost. There is no, Brother Royce just mentioned all of the issues that must be addressed from leadership nationally and even locally. And as you know, what happens nationally will trickle down and affect what happens locally. I compel you, I'll get King James on you. I beseech you, therefore, my brethren, if you are able, if you are of an age to vote, and let's not get caught up in this rhetoric of arguing and fighting and with people. Let's just trust God, vote from the convictions of our very own heart. I had the privilege of running around all night with these two fellas, listening to them argue over and over. They were arguing. You would think they're just brothers. But it was fun as we hung out signs, and when we first started, our staple guns didn't work. We tried to. It was a mess. But and then that night, I was on the edge of my seat, and the person I had joined in and spending the night before, he lost the election. But I told folk he lost, but he won, and he was because of not only how he had been serving in the community, but because of the support that was rendered. An opening came up, and he was appointed in a spot. God ordained that thing where he did so well just by serving before and the support. He lost the election, but he won, and from then on he served until God moved him to another city. You're looking at him right now. He's still suave, and he's got some white stuff on his face. But God ordained that thing. So y'all, hey, let's get involved. Let's serve. Let's love God, and let's love God's people. Let's love our community, our nation, our country, and let's go out and vote. Hey, thank you so much. God bless you.